Okay, welcome everyone again to today's Ninja Skill Booster. I'm still not sure we're recording. I'm just going to keep going here. Yes, it is recording. Managing email overwhelm. We should be doing managing Zoom overwhelm. Here are my contact details for you again. Let's get into it. Think productive. I've already introduced before we had to restart the recording. And today's session, what we're going to be covering. The content for today. Why are we overwhelmed with emails? What's wrong with emails? Why are we causing ourselves so much stress by being stressed with emails? So I'm getting a chat here that my internet is very slow. This might be not a good thing this morning. It worked beautifully yesterday. Sorry, everyone. I just did get a call from Ninja Julie, and I'm just going to run now without my video on. So now we're just going to work with the slides. So can you please put in the chat a couple of words about emails? How do you feel about emails? How do they affect your stress? How do they affect your well-being? Fire hose, too many, thank you. Yes, it is, isn't it? Overwhelmed, invasive. Yes, they can be. We'll be talking about that today. So yes, it's a mess. I hate them. They're time consuming. Well, let's talk about why they are so overwhelming. Because there's so many of them. We're getting about 121 emails a day. We're sending about 40. We're spending 3.5 hours or about almost half our day spent on email. This is a lot of time we're spending on email. No wonder we're finding this overwhelming. It's not going away. This is why email is also overwhelming. They just keep coming and we get more and more and more. The other thing about email, the slides are moving slowly, says Julie. I'm going to keep going, and if this is a complete train smash, this webinar this morning, what I'm going to do is make a full recording after this and post it to you all so you can watch the recording. So I'll make a new recording, so just so you know. But let's try and keep going for those of you that are willing to deal with my slow Wi-Fi. My apologies. Email distraction causes a reduction in our IQ, even more than smoking marijuana. Now, this is interesting. This was some study done at King's College London, where they did have different groups and they were testing different things that affected their IQ. So letting ourselves be distracted by email is actually making us less smart. Now, this is a problem, isn't it? This is a problem in our workplace. So email is the primary source of office interruptions, particularly when we're working from home. I would say this is also combined with MS Teams chat and other chats these days. One of the biggest challenges with email is the inefficient communication that it leads us into. Long-winded communication, trying to find a time to meet when it would be so much better to just pick up the phone, for example. So this causes stress. What you've all shared in the chat, it's causing stress, it's causing overwhelm. One of the challenges is we are so connected to our emails. We check them before work. We check them on holidays. We're checking them. We're checking them about 15 times a day. So over-checking emails is causing so much stress, and we'll be talking about this in more detail. Every time we check our email, what do we see? More work. So this is causing more stress, because every time we see more work, we're just getting more and more and more stressed. So we'll be talking about mobile phones and how emails are, so invasive, particularly when we've got them on our mobile phones. When we're getting in control of our emails, we start to get more focus, we start to get more clarity. This reduces our stress and we get more done. So what I'm going to be talking about now that I think we've got some flow happening here, now that I've turned my camera off, now that I think we've got some interaction going, this is good. Here are our top 5 tips. So this is for you, the bit to think, okay, what changes am I going to make now to get on top of my email? The first tip, don't overplay it. Don't overplay the importance of emails. It's just one form of communication. So every ninja we've ever worked with, every productivity ninja in our business, every productivity ninja we've ever trained, now understands that email is just one form of communication. Let's not always just default to email. There's other ways. There's other ways. So every piece of communication, I love this slide. Every piece of communication is a step towards our outcome. So this is emails, this is phone calls, this is Teams chat, these are text messages, these are Zoom calls, Teams calls. So this slide comes from our Supercharger team communications workshop, but it relates to email in just thinking like, let's think that there's a broader world than just emails. There's a broader way of getting our communication to our team, to our colleagues. Tip number 2, turning off the notifications. This is the thing that makes us smarter. As I presented earlier, the King's College study showed that being distracted by emails reduces our IQ by about 10 points. So simply turning off the notifications in our Outlook, in our Gmail, in whatever platform we're using, really makes a big difference for this. And I'll be emailing you after the session today with a good recording of this workshop, how to do this. I'll send you some instructions, but for most of us, we can go and find that under the file menu, turning off the notifications. But there's something just as powerful, I was going to say more powerful, just as powerful, possibly even more powerful than turning off notifications, and it links to this, and it's turning our Outlook offline. So if you are using Outlook and you are using the desktop version of Outlook, this is possibly one of the best things I'll be sharing today, and most people have never used this function. Turning Outlook offline enables us to achieve what we call ninja stealth and camouflage. And this is in a zone where we're not getting any emails coming in. We're not getting distracted by those emails in the inbox because there's no new ones coming in, but we can still be using Outlook because we all need to use Outlook for our work. We need to be looking up information. We need to be writing emails. So turning Outlook offline. So you'll find that button under the send receive menu. If you don't find it there, talk to your IT people. They sometimes need to activate that function. And just make sure you realize there's no work online button. So it's the same button to go offline and online. So have a play with this. Offline should really be the default for our emails. Other ways to manage distractions generally is turning off our mobile phones, using a timer to get work done. This is just a fancy timer called Forest that you can get on the phone. This is in the concept of the Pomodoro technique, but this is a bit off track for our email workshop. So the main thing here is thinking about this work offline function. So that was tip number 2, turning off the notifications and working offline. I see some more comments in the chat here. Thank you for that. Please feel free to keep putting comments in the chat. Using rules for important emails is a good idea, Bernard. I agree. Yeah, and there are just so many emails, Amanda. Yeah. Everyone sees it as a chance to offload their communication by emailing endless documents. Yeah, I really dislike that phrase that when I send an email, the ball's in their court or something like that. It's like, it's not the case. We need to be very responsible with the emails we're sending. So the third tip, stop checking. So when we're doing our ninja email practices, don't constantly check. Now, this is huge. Now, this says whenever email tells you to, but it's not necessarily whenever email tells you to, because it's whenever our brain tells us to. Have a think about how many times you probably check your emails in a day. You know, the average is 15. But for many of us, it's more. For many of us who are sitting in front of our computers all day, it's every 5 minutes. So instead of checking, process. And process is using our inbox to zero process. When you actually open up your inbox, clear those emails out through a triage process, which I'll be sharing with you shortly. And then you turn your email offline again. So you can actually then deal with those emails. So if you're taking any notes, please write down this one. Don't constantly check. And when I check my emails, I get more stressed. That's a really key sort of benefit of not constantly checking. It is a way of managing our stress. How often would you walk to your letterbox? Says Wayne. Yeah, absolutely, Wayne. Emails are like an addiction, Elizabeth, especially if they're on the mobile phone. I agree. And sometimes I feel like I need to be checking them all the time. Yeah, that's interesting, Michelle. Sometimes we do feel like we need to be checking them all the time. And sometimes it's good to just check in with ourselves on that. do I really need to be? What's the information I'm looking for? What have I set up with my team that they're expecting instant responses, for example? And are there other ways? Sometimes it involves having a conversation with our colleagues about how to contact us if something's urgent. So when we're thinking about checking all the time, just remember that most emails don't require an action. 80% of our emails don't require action. Now, we've just made up these numbers in the 80-20 rule, but most emails don't require action. 20% of our emails produce 80% of our results. This is just another way to think about it. So many of the emails we send are not really producing results, are not really moving us forward. So it's about being selective in what we send and also being selective in how much importance we're placing on those emails coming in. Don't assume we have to reply. We can often just file or delete them. Tip number 4, I'll just have a look at these chats again. Much of my work comes via email, says Amanda, and a lot of it's just in time. It's hard to turn off without questions being asked. Interesting. It is hard to turn off, and a lot of work is coming in via email. It's good to just be aware of how much distraction we're letting the email cause us. Stop checking emails after 6 p.m. Nice one, Tricia. I really like that. And the trouble is, you have all your emails to know which 20% matter. That's true, Richard. That's why the triage process is important, which is tip number 5. Let's talk about tip number 4, pros and cons of mobile email. This was a guy in Taiwan. If you Google after the session today, grandfather in Taiwan, he was playing Pokemon. He was trying to win the Pokemon game. So he had all these mobile phones on a stand on his bike. But think about emails on your mobile phone. This is really feeding into the addiction. This is really feeding into this desire to constantly check, because unfortunately our mobile phones are designed to be so incredibly addictive. So really good to just be thinking about, do I need emails on my mobile? How do I use emails on my mobile? Yes, they're extremely convenient, but that's one of the issues as well, that they are so convenient. And good point, Julie. It's hard to process on our mobile phones because we don't have as much freedom for, easily filing things and doing things like that. So tip number 5, and this is like the essence of our Getting Your Inbox to Zero workshop in terms of the nuts and bolts of our email process. So tip number 5 is triage. Look at this beautiful zero inbox here. Some of you will see there are some folders over here on the left-hand side, and this is a clue to what I'm about to share. But the idea of triaging is getting those emails out of the inbox. So triage is taking that time to look and make some quick decisions. Which ones are important? As I think it was Richard said earlier, we need to look at all of them to work out which ones are important. But we only need to look at them all once. And this is what the triaging point is, rather than just leaving them in the inbox and going through them over and over again. So let me explain this process of triage for you. Everything comes into the inbox, and then we set up some processing folders. So we can triage the emails into these processing folders, and then some reference folders or some filing underneath. Now, we do recommend not too many reference folders, and I do recommend having one folder in the reference. I like to call it the email attic, but one folder in the reference folders where we can file all the emails we're finished with. You could just call it completed or done. And we don't need too many subfolders. You might want to have a subfolder for travel or a subfolder for personnel issues or something like that, but basically not too many subfolders. So the processing folders is where the magic happens. And this is what they look like. We have an action folder, a reading folder, and a waiting folder. They all have that @ sign at the front because the @ sign puts them at the top of the list if it's sorting alphabetically. And as I mentioned, this is the real process, or the nuts and bolts of our Inbox to Zero workshop, is helping people get used to using these folders. So the idea is the emails move from our inbox, we move them from our inbox to the action folder if there's an action to come back and do later. Not if it's less than 2 minutes. If it's something we can do in less than 2 minutes, we do it on the spot. A quick response, a quick approval or rejection, denial, or sending someone an attachment, as long as it's quick. The reading folder for things that we need to come back and read later. The waiting folder for things that we are waiting on other people to do, because we don't want those things in our action folder cluttering that up. And then when we've done that triage and we've moved them all into those folders, we can turn our Outlook offline. And then we turn our Outlook offline and we can actually spend some time going through that action folder and getting up to date. So that's the nuts and bolts of how it works, having these folders set up. And as I've already mentioned, we don't want too many subfolders. We want a few large buckets, one of which is the email attic, or call it completed, or call it done. We don't want hundreds of tiny cups in these reference or filing folders, because they really chew up a lot of time. Bonus tip number 6. It is life-changing. Now, bonus tip number 6 puts a bit of pressure on ourselves, or a bit of responsibility on ourselves. Now, Graham, who wrote the Productivity Ninja book, said this: you get the email you deserve. And I like this. It's a bit confronting, but one of the key things here is thinking about your subject line. When we think about our email etiquette, think about your subject line. The better your subject line, the more chance there is you'll get the response you're looking for. When that person replies to your email, there's more chance it'll make more sense to you. So the subject line is really important, as is the number of emails we send. If you stop sending emails, you'll stop receiving emails as well, or your incoming traffic will reduce. So getting the email we deserve is a really interesting thought on this. So that's bonus tip number 6. Start to be aware of the quality and quantity of the emails you send. So in these Ninja Skill Boosters, our plan is to share some thought-provoking ideas, some ideas that give you some practical tips that you can get started on, setting up that action, read, waiting folder, thinking about turning off your notifications, turning your Outlook offline. There's a lot to think about in here. We do run a full course on this Inbox to Zero, where we work with people hands-on, getting that done. So get in touch if you want any information on that. So I hope you're feeling a little bit calmer by knowing why we're overwhelmed, because email is overwhelming. So what's in the reference folders, Amanda, is everything that you finished with. It doesn't need an action anymore. Emails you want to keep. They're basically just the subfolders that you already have. But our encouragement is not to have too many of those subfolders, and having one called email attic or completed or done is really good idea, because that becomes your dumping ground. You can survive with action, reading, waiting, and email attic as your only folders. Sometimes we don't even need extra folders. So that's what the reference folders are. Thanks for asking that question. We've talked about not overplaying the importance of email. We've talked about, it's just one form of communication. Turn off those notifications and turn your Outlook offline. Stop checking. Process your emails. Minimize mobile emails. Mobile emails are incredibly addictive and inefficient. Triage to zero. These are our tips for today. Triage to zero. Get that inbox to zero so you get that sense of calm, that reduction in your stress. And our bonus tip, practicing email etiquette. So a lot there today. Feel free to grab a photo of that screen or a screenshot. I will be doing another recording of this session straight after this, so that we've got a nice clean recording for all of you and for anyone that missed it. So I will be doing that. And now there's time for questions. So I'll just have a look at the chat. What's the email etiquette about sending an email which just says thanks? It's still another email action. That's a really interesting one, Kim. Yeah, what's the etiquette around saying thanks? So when we run our email etiquette workshop, or we now call it our Supercharge Your Team Communications Workshop, it's a good question that often comes up. Let me ask the group. We've got quite a few people in the call today, about 50 people. Do you think it's a good idea to send an email saying thanks? Put yes in the chat. Or do you think, if you don't think it's a good idea, say no? Yes, you think it's a good idea to send thank you emails. No, if you think you don't need to, because they're just more noise. I mean, as you can see already, we've got about a 50-50 mix. My view is sometimes Cheryl could answer. That wasn't an option, but anyway, that's the point here, isn't it? So back to your question, Kim. I think it's a good idea to say thanks when it's when it's appropriate. I don't think there's a downside there. And Julie's written, Kim, it's a tricky one, but it comes down to etiquette and the rules we've set within our teams. Do they expect it? Thanks. How does the processing system work if you have multiple email accounts? Great question, Holly. So how does the processing work if you have multiple email accounts? Yep, you replicate the action, reading, waiting in each inbox. Each inbox is a separate inbox that you need to manage. So yeah, it's the same process for each inbox, definitely. Do you have advice about keeping email trails or just the last one? Yeah, good question, Amanda. Just the last one, if it includes all the trail below, but we can't always be 100% sure of that. So often I would be saying just keep them. The good thing about having that email attic or the completed folder is it is just like a dumping ground that you can put all the emails in and you can always go and find them if you need to find them. There's always a big question about should I delete or should I keep? If in doubt, keep, I say. Your IT people won't like that. If we do start running out of memory and we're clogging up the IT system, we can always just delete the big emails. You know, they're the ones that are chewing up the memory. I'll keep answering questions, but before we go, because I do want to let you go on time, we've got another one of these Ninja Skill Boosters coming up. It's all about hybrid working. So that's on Wednesday, the 23rd. I'm going to put a link in the chat for you so you can access that one directly. So that's another one of these free Ninja Skill Boosters. And I will be coming back to send you all the recording. And the other thing we've got coming up, sorry, let me put that chat in here for you. That's the link to the hybrid working workshop. And we've got another program that some of you might love, all of you would love if you feel like spending some budget on it, the 6 weeks to Ninja program. So this is 6 weeks. We spend 2 hours a week together with a group of people, and we absolutely love this program. The next one starts on the 30th of March. Check that one out. I've put the link in the chat for you. The cost is, I think it's $750 for the super early bird at the moment. So check that one out. It's a really good value course. And we've also got our full range of courses that we run for our clients around hybrid working, working from home, you know, leading hybrid teams, productivity workshops, meetings workshops, obviously the getting your inbox to zero workshop. So there's so much that we cover. So please do get in touch. I'm going to turn my camera back on now just to have an opportunity to say hello. I hope the Wi-Fi doesn't die on us again. Thanks everyone for your comments in the chat. I apologize for the IT issues. Got to do some work on that in this new home. And sound a bit sick. Am I okay? Yes, Felicity, thank you. I'm okay. I think I'm just a bit scattered from moving house and a bit thrown by these Wi-Fi issues. I'm going to keep answering questions as well. Thank you, Richard, for this question. So thanks everyone for coming. Let me keep going and answering some questions. So feel free to stay on the line and get in touch if you have any questions. So Richard, how do you get a bloated mailbox down to a manageable level? Oh, good point. So when we're doing our inbox to zero workshop, we go through different stages for this. And the first stage is clearing that inbox out, and we call it hacking. And hacking is moving big chunks of email at one time. And what I normally suggest is go into your inbox, sort by date, and take everything that's older than 2 months and just move it to that email attic. Remember that email attic is a dumping ground. I do have a frog in my throat, Felicity, well spotted. So move all those emails that are older than 2 months to the email attic, and then you've only got 2 months worth of emails. Then sort by sender. See if there's any groups of sender, who it's from, that you can delete or move. And then sort by subject. See if there's any groups by subject. So sort by date, sender, subject, and hacking. Like you should be able, if you've got 10,000 emails, you should be able to get down to 1,000 really quickly. And then you start hacking through that 1,000 in a bit more detail. Great question, Richard. Thank you. The key thing is don't try and go one by one when you've got thousands of emails. And remember, all of those emails that are older than 2 months, you're not deleting them, you're just putting them in the in the email attic? Great question. I hope that answered for you. Any other questions? Get to my emails, Wayne. Thank you. Nothing like a telehealth consultation. Thanks, Felicity. Yeah, crazy internet. My huge apologies. Richard, 85,000 emails. Yeah, well done. I've seen 137,000. I think that's the maximum I've seen. Do we just ignore the attic? Amanda, great question. So Amanda's asking, do we just ignore the attic? I have thousands of emails. Well, the thing is, Amanda, the attic is where you're putting them all to keep them, and you do ignore it until you need to find one. Until you need to find one of those emails because you think, I need that email about that topic or from that person, and you can go and find it. And the interesting thing with the attic is a lot of people get concerned that they won't be able to find emails in there. But think about your sent folder. We don't file our sent folder emails, and you can nearly always go in and find emails in your sent folder. So the email attic's similar. Do I have search tips? So the main search tip in Outlook, well, the main thing about search tips is get better at search. Learn how to use the search. Go to YouTube and search in YouTube. How do I search in Outlook, or how do I search in Gmail? Watch a 5-minute video and it will change your life. I should make one of those, by the way. But just get better at using search. Every time you click in the search bar in Outlook, it brings up an option. It brings up a whole set of different options that you can use, like does it have an attachment, who's it from, etc. So get better at search is a really key thing. Yeah, and while we've still got a few people on the line, I am considering doing a public inbox to zero workshop, which is the 3-hour workshop where we do all this together. So just put a yes in the chat for me if you'd be interested in attending a public inbox to zero workshop. We would charge for that, yeah, we would charge for that, but we keep the cost down because we keep it accessible for individuals. So we do run that as a corporate workshop or an in-house workshop for our corporate clients, but it's often cost prohibitive for individuals. So that's lots of yeses. Thank you. Now, just as while you're all here, and I really appreciate your help. I guess it's a bit of giving back from this free session. Yeah, what would you expect to pay for that? Just put something in the chat. It would be a 3-hour session, one-on-one opportunities to get the coaching from the ninja, as in me or Julie or Gavin or the other Matt, one of our ninjas. What would you expect to pay for that? This will just help me know where to set the price. I mean, I just thought while we're here, let's just get some market research on this. What would you expect to pay for that 3-hour online inbox to zero workshop? Or what would you be happy to pay? Might be a better question, because I want to make sure it's accessible for all of you and it's fair for all of us. So yeah, you were all very quick to jump. They will always underprice it. Yeah, who's going to put their pricing in here? Yeah, nice. Will you underprice your thing? I don't know. I think people are being fair here. Yeah, thank you. Standard consultancy per hour fee range. Okay, Elizabeth, interesting. All right, thank you, everyone. We will set it based on those prices, probably around the $100 mark, because I really want to make it accessible for everyone. So, yeah. Thank you, everyone. I hope you all have a great day. See you at the next Ninja Skill Booster, and my apologies for the bad internet. We will send out a better recording. Lots of ninja love to you all, and see you soon. Bye for now. Thanks everyone. Thanks for listening. Yeah, we've moved in, but we are still unpacking. Oh, thanks, Jason. That's nice. Yeah, I've got to sort out this Wi-Fi. Got good Wi-Fi, but just not down this end of the house. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye for now. What's the Roomba, Jason? Maybe you turned the Roomba on. Don't know what that is. Oh, robot vacuum. Yes. Does that use the Wi-Fi? Maybe the robot's out there doing the vacuuming. No, I don't have one of those. Oh, very good. That's great. I love it. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day. Bye.